Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's On the Sofa. We're privileged to have Paul Gilchrist with us tonight, and he'll be on shortly. Just to let you know that there are more Chesterfield tickets now available. The Chesterfield has sent through an extra lot for us, so I know that they're ready to go into having the shop tomorrow or online. So let's bring Vic on.
Hi, Chris.
Hi,
very good
Vic.
evening to you. Hiya.
You?
Yeah, good,
Yeah.
good. The season's creeping ever closer, as we know, and SAS Travel will be running coaches, of course, to all away games this season. And coach tickets for Crawley and Crew will go on sale at 10 o'clock tomorrow. That's 10 o'clock in the morning in the Swindon Town Superstore. So that's when they're open from, 10 o'clock tomorrow. If you want to go to Crawley for the Carabao League Cup match, that's on Tuesday, the 13th of August. Members 19, that's members of the supporters club, of course. Non-members £21. That leaves the county ground at 3:30. And Crew on the 24th of August. Now, as we know, that is an earlier kickoff because of our satellite friends. That's members £21, non-members £23. That departs the county ground, ouch, at 7:30 a.m. For those of us who live a long way away, it's a lot earlier than that. So Crew and Crawley both on sale tomorrow in the Swindon Town shop. And I would imagine if they've got any space for Chesterfield, there would also be some of those available too. So 10 o'clock tomorrow, get down to the shop or get in touch with them of any of the methods on their profile. They'll be happy to hear from you.
Excellent. And I will just say that we are no longer live on Twitter. So hopefully people that were on Twitter have now gone to either YouTube or Facebook. I've just had a message up. We have to subscribe to Premier X with a subscription to actually do any live streams. So we'll have to look into that to see what we need to do. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Musk.
Sorry?
Thank you, Mr. Musk.
Yes. How much more money do you want? Yes.
Yeah.
So, right, let's bring Paul on.
Hello.
Good evening, Paul.
Evening.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for inviting me on.
Oh, no, our pleasure. Thank you very much for accepting our invite. Okay, so I'm going to leave you now. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and we'll get through as many as we can. And I will see you later.
Chris, thanks ever so much. Paul, it's Gilchrist, it's a great pleasure to welcome you on from a great era of Swindon Town, the late 70s, when really things were going quite well, I think, for the team. But let's start off in your career, because you were born in Dartford in Kent in 1951, and your early days were in Charlton, I think. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. I was. I played. The school that I went to was a rugby school, and so I was my early days were playing rugby. But I used to play for the village team on a Saturday afternoon, and another village team just up the road on a Sunday. So I kind of was playing a bit of both, really, a bit of rugby and a bit of football. But it ended up, I was 15, I think it was, something like that, playing for Crocken Hill, which is near where I lived, and was spotted by Charlton. Well, it was a friend of mine, a friend of my father, in fact, knew somebody as a Charlton scout, and he came down to watch us play, and that's how I kind of started. Got invited to become a schoolboy at Charlton, and then was offered an apprenticeship. And 16, I signed an apprentice. Left school, signed an apprentice for a year, then was signed professionally at 17, which was a bit of I think I was a bit overawed by everything, the whole football club and the players that were there, and I managed to eventually play about 6 games for Charlton, which all flew by and didn't really do a lot. And not surprising, when I got sort of I think it was 19, I got released, and ended up going to where it was a Charlton. Maurice Setters, who was a Charlton player, who retired and ended up going up to become manager of Doncaster Rovers. And,
Yeah.
it was
Now,
him.
let's go back a bit, because it's slightly different these days, isn't it, with academies and all that kind
Oh
of.
gosh, yes, yeah.
I mean, there were certain rules you had to go through. Clubs couldn't approach you till a certain age, could they? And then, they used to come knocking on doors and asking parents, "Could you sign?" And were there any were there any inducements, Paul Gilchrist? I'd like to.
not that's a thing. Well, then I was playing. I finished the game. There was a knock on the dressing room door, and this guy was, just opened the door, and they said, "Oh, there's a guy out there who wants to speak to you." So I said, "Oh, who's that?" So I walked out, and it was a guy called Jim Fibbins, and he said, "I thought I'd introduce myself." And he said, "I'd like to. I'm from Charlton. I'd like to have a chat with you, and perhaps we could go and see your parents." So we arranged it, and he came to our house, and my mother wasn't very happy. She thought, she's taking me away, kind of being a footballer. It's not the thing to do. So she was a bit against it. But my father was quite pleased, I think. But no, there was nothing. But the times were so different then. And I used to go. I was in school in a village near Orpington, and on a Tuesday and a Thursday, they had evening training at Charlton, and I used to leave school, catch a bus from Chelsfield to Orpington, then a bus from Orpington to Dartford, get on a train from Dartford to Charlton, had the training session in the evening, and then do the return back to home. So 14, 15 years old I was then, and you do that on a Thursday, and then you play on a weekend. It was kind of, you wouldn't probably do that now, really. You wouldn't let someone loose on the train at that time of the evening. But
no such safeguarding issues in those days. Then just get on the train. Yeah.
No, it was just the thing. We did. It was great. And there was an excitement. When we got there, and the training was great, and it was just going to a club like that. So it was. Not many people get the opportunity to do it.
No, absolutely not. I mean, tell us about the apprenticeship, because, as I said, it's slightly different these days with the academies and things like that. I mean, what sort of things were you doing? Washing out dressing rooms, all that kind of stuff?
Oh, yeah. I'm cleaning. We go back. Charlton are one of the clubs that do tend to like to bring old players back and watch games. And I go quite often. And one of the guys there was a chap called Keith Peacock. He was quite a famous Charlton player, and he's one of the ambassadors there. So when I go back, and we always have a chat, but I used to clean his boots. And on a match day, you go in there, you get his boots out and the towels and everything, and you do all that. And then when they've gone, you clean all the toilets out, and so it was. But you did it. That was the way it was. You weren't. I don't know whether they do that now, but it was great to be involved in that, that environment, I think.
Sure. You might correct me here, but wasn't Keith Peacock the first ever person to be a substitute? Is that right?
He was, yes. Yeah. Well done. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
There was a lot. There's a lot of players then which were probably a lot of people don't know them now, but in that time, they were in the old second division. So you remember a lot of the. We used to see the when the game on a Saturday, where we would get there and we'd have all the boots out and putting everything, the kit out, everything like that. Then you'd be standing in the corridor, and then the opposing team would turn up in a bus and they'd come down the corridor. And I always remember we were standing there, and I think it was Swansea, when Swansea were in the second division then. You remember John Toshak came through, a massive chap, he was mashing him centre forward. And he came down the corridor, and we all looked up, and the whole place went dark because he was like so big. and then you think, Christ, this is if you do promote, if you get on, you'll be playing against people like this, and it was quite a daunting time to see these people. But it was great. It was really enjoyable.
So when the moment comes and you play for the first team, what's that like? Because you've been through the village school, you've been through the apprenticeship. I guess you may have played reserve games, I don't know. But then the moment comes, you're in the first team. How is that?
Yeah, well, again, that probably was one of my failings, probably, because I remember, I think the first time I was a substitute, and at Charlton the Valley, and I got brought on. I don't know, can't remember, that's so long ago, but I remember going on, and they had whoever we were playing, I can't remember, but we had a corner, and I had to go back and mark one of their defenders at the corner, and I always remember, after all these years, I can remember standing in the 6-yard box, looking at all these guys who were so determined and switched on, and they just seemed enormous, and sweating, and I was thinking, Christ, this is like, people don't see that. They don't see that on the TV. They don't hear the noise, the people, the aggressive talking between players, and it's quite threatening, really. But I always remember that, and I'm thinking, gee, this is different to what I'm normally, and I think that's probably one of the things that, I was never the most confident player. So when you get like this happening, it was quite. So I can see, looking back, I can see why I never really flourished and set the world afire, really. But moving from a second division club and then to go to Doncaster, it all changed, because you feel like you come from a big club to a smaller club, even though the players were great players there at the time. And just made you just opened it up, really. A bit more confident, and things just started to happen, really.
You did a couple of loan spells as well, I think, hadn't you? Cambridge and Scotland.
Yeah, Cambridge, I stayed at the digs, because they used to do that. I think it was probably a thing of getting more experience. So, they said, right, we're going to send you to Cambridge United, which were in the Southern League then. They weren't in the league at the time. And I stayed in the digs where Ian Hutchinson, he played for Chelsea. He was in digs, because he was just a Cambridge player. I stayed in the digs with them, with a couple that looked after him. Then I went to Fulham. I went to Yeovil as well. Did a month at Yeovil. But they were all experience, really. So it helped me in the end.
Yeah, Maurice Setters then, he had a Manchester United background, if memory serves, did he not?
Did, yeah.
So he comes in for you at Doncaster Rovers. They're in the 4th division, the old Bellevue ground.
That's it, yeah. Best turf. They had the best surface to play on. It was fantastic. It was really, really, yeah. But there were rumours, I don't know if it's true or not, but I think Wembley Stadium at the time, Wembley wanted to take the turf off Doncaster's ground.
Wow.
I don't know if they did or not, but they were talking about that up there. But Laurie McMenemy had been manager of Doncaster the previous season. He got sacked and moved to Grimsby, and Maurice obviously retired from Charlton and then became Doncaster manager. So I ended up going there. So there's a few other things that happened before. I won't go into all those, but so that was quite an experience. I quite enjoyed it there. But I was only there. Well, it was an interesting thing. The last game I played for Charlton, I'd been sent off for arguing with the referee, because I've been kicked all over the place. I argued with the referee, got sent off, and my punishment was to be banned from playing for 6 weeks. And I can't remember, like the £30 fine or something like that. So it wasn't until Maurice, he said we'd like to do. It was on a free transfer, so they weren't paying any money for me. So he said that we'd like you to come up to us and play. And I said, yeah, great. And I said, oh, by the way, I can't play for 6 weeks because I've been banned. So he made a search out. He said, I can't believe it. He said, I'm giving you all the opportunity to come up here. And he said, I've got to go into the board of directors and tell them I've just got a player. He said, but he can't play for 6 weeks. So he kind of laughed and smiled. And then he took me on, and I helped train with the other kids, the youngsters as well, for 6 weeks, and then ended up getting in the side. And I only played, I think, 22 games, something like that for them.
Yeah, but you scored some goals, didn't you?
Yeah. I scored about 10 goals, I think, in 20-odd games. So, but it was that, going back to that thing, it was like, it just, everything went everything changed. Everything sort of became more enjoyable, I suppose. More enjoyable, and the guys, the players there were. I mean, I think with most clubs you go to, and people don't realise that, but there is a squad of players, and 99% of the times you get on with everyone, and they all become your friends, and they do anything for you. And I think, and Doncaster was the same. They were really,
How was that? You've moved from the southeast where you've been based, and then all of a sudden you're up in Yorkshire, and you're still a young person. So how do you deal with that? Because that's quite a change.
Well, yeah, I just thought, to be honest, I thought anything, it's going to be really kind of a lot of the towns. You have this impression of a lot of towns up in Yorkshire, up the north. We're going to be quite, grimy and rich, and and Doncaster is a mining town, and we were had this impression there. But I just tell you, when you go up there, the countryside is fantastic. It was like a real eye opener. But the village we lived in, well, the village rather I had digs in, was where Kevin Keegan was brought up. So and the digs we had was a little mine. It used to be kind of like a cottage or a terraced house, but it was so cold. I remember we used to wake up in the morning and there was ice inside the windows. You had to scrape off to see what the weather was like. But it was a bit of a bit different up there, but I loved it. I mean, I wasn't there for that long, to be honest. So I mean, but it leaves a lot of good memories.
Did you get to the race course? Because that's just
yeah. We used to train. We used to go across the road and we used to run. That was the thing. It was quite. Sorry for the horses, really, but it's quite a big. It is quite good. It's ideal for them. Good for the club, really. But
well, the aforementioned Laurie McMenemy is now at Southampton. And in he comes for you. So how do you find out about that?
Well, I got called up into the office, by Morris, and he was quite strict. And he just said, and there were kind of a few things in the paper that's, the gossip things they had in the Sunday paper then. And I think there was a little thing about Sheffield Wednesday were being interested in, seeing me. So anyway, I went up into office and he said, sit down like that. And I thought he was going to tell us off for something I did or whatever. And he said, do you fancy leaving here? And I knew that. And I said, well, and he was quite annoyed. He said, I brought you up from, from Charlton up here and, I've been looking after you. And you want to leave me like this after this short time? And I said, well, yeah, well, I don't, and I said, so, what is a club or something that's after me? And he said, yeah, there is. And I assumed it was like a third division club or something like that. And I said, who is it? And he went, Southampton. And I went, you're joking. And he said, no. He said, go and get your bag. He said, we'll be on the train down today. So he came down. So it was like that.
So did you have any say in it? Or was it just a case, look, I think it was 30 grand that were paid, which, in 1972, a lot of bread, isn't it?
It was 22.
Was it?
No, it didn't have a thing. I didn't, money never came into, I didn't even know anything about that. They just said they want to buy you, go and get your bag, we're going down there. So we ended up going down there, and it was Ted Bates was the manager at the time. Ted Bates was the guy who signed me, and we just basically went into the boardroom like that and introduced himself and had a chat and all this, and he said, here's the contract, and you didn't even look at it, you just said, where's the pen? I'll sign. I mean, you'd sign for peanuts, wouldn't you? Really, if you're going from a 4th division club to a 1st division, you didn't even negotiate. You just said, "This is what we're going to pay you." Go, fine. Well, I'll sign. And that was it. So, so that in a short time, Doncaster made a profit, so they were quite happy.
So no agents in those days, of course.
No. It's one of the things, I suppose. It was but I think it was different then. I mean, you've got I mean, you ask anyone, you ask 100 people that were at my age, you know, you got a choice of signing for a professional football club. You wouldn't go, well, no, I don't want more money. You know, I want this. I probably might be different now, but then you say, Christ, you know, this is, you would jump at the chance of doing that. So it was just, you know, you had Mick Shannon, you know, Terry Payne, and all of that, you know, people down there, you know, and you think, Christ, you know. But it wasn't like going from, you know, when I first went to Charlton, where you were overawed. You know, I think I went from Doncaster to Charlton, to Southampton rather. You know, and the confidence was there, and you know, I felt quite at home really. You know, it was, and again, going back to the thing where the club were really good, the people there were great. You know, they all helped you in, but they had a lot of, as well. I was 20, 21, 22, something like that. And there were a lot of people of that age there. So there was a little group of us that were, you know, all stuck together and, you know, hung out together, which was great.
And of course, the Dell, it's pretty similar to Bellevue in as much that it's a tight, sort of small ground, isn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, you imagine on a Tuesday night in the evening, dark, you know, with the floodlights on, you know, and you're playing Manchester United or Leeds or whoever, you know, Arsenal, you know, at the Dell. They hated it. All the clubs that came down there didn't like playing there because it was so tight, so close to, you know, the crowd. But we loved it. It was, you know, you get a night there, and you know, there's quite a few which, and you're winning. The crowd going absolutely crazy. You know, it was. You know, great place to be.
Sure. Fabulous atmosphere there. And from there, of course, the sort of seeds of this incredible FA Cup run come out. A second division team at the time. Let's go through that FA Cup run. I watched a couple of goals that you scored in it this afternoon. One against Crystal Palace in the semi. Great shot from outside the box. One against West Bromwich Albion, lovely little turn, smack it on and then it goes into the top corner. 2 goals in an FA Cup run, you end up at Wembley. They must have been special moments, those goals.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the West Brom game, we'd played at the Hawthorns and Drew, 1-1, and then I got the replay, and it was like just what I was saying, a Tuesday night. They're good. They were a good side then, and we were, I think, 3-0 up after, you know, first half, something like that. Nick Shannon was a cracking goal, and it, you know, it couldn't have been better. It was just like, and that was, I think, those things that the ball hit to me, and if you see probably what you say if you watched it, I went to control it. And it flicked up. Literally, I went to control it, miscontrolled it in a way, and it came up where it had, you know, and it was the only thing I could do was a kind of overhead kick and did that, and it went in. You know, so it was like fate, I suppose, isn't it? A bit of luck goes everywhere, but and the other one, the Crystal Palace one, was that was a. No, I always said to after they interviewed afterwards in the dressing room, funny and the guy said, "Oh, it's a great shot, you know, talk us through it," you know, and it was just like a 1-2 with Peter Osgood, I think it was, and then you just had to have a chance. You had to have a get, you know, it could go anywhere, but you just had to hit it. And I said the opportunity arose to hit it. So it was literally, I just blasted it as hard as I could. And Mitch Shannon always said, he said, "Oh, he just scraped my foot, he just scraped my leg as it went past," you know, like this. Yeah, right. But and you couldn't see it. The goal, I thought the keeper was going to have it, and it went. You know, you couldn't see where it was going, and then all of a sudden, then you could see the net bulge, and the crowd went mad. So you know, it was like, you know, it was in. But that was it was great at Stamford Bridge. So,
yeah, I was going to say that's where it was. Yeah. I think did David So David Peach, I think, got the second. Did he?
He got,
He got the obviously another future Swindon player. Of course. Yeah.
But we keep in touch. We keep in touch. He's down on the south coast, so he's a great chap. But again, I was just going to say about the luck again in football. Hughie Fisher, who usually played like wide midfield. And he'd had a hamstring injury for a bit, and he was touch and go whether he was going to play, and I wasn't sure. I was kind of filled in at Bradford before, and then he literally a couple of days beforehand. He kind of said, "I'm not 100% fit," so he pulled out and became substitute and allowed me to play. So again, it's all fate, isn't it? All luck that we happened to do that game and scored the goal. The first goal. So, which you always remembered. We go back to Southampton, people come up and go.
Well, of course they do. Absolutely. Yeah, of course they do. You see, this is the moment, isn't it? When you're 1 minute you're playing for your village school, and the next minute you're going to the Twin Towers. I mean, these are the moments you dream of as a kid, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't. When you look back, I think the other thing when you look back, how lucky in a way that you sometimes you have a bit of a cold sweat, because you could think if you were the person that gave a penalty away, or you missed a chance in the 90th minute, and people would never forget. They'd always be, they were the guy that didn't do that. So, or have an own goal or something like that. So it's quite a responsibility in a way that you could get through it. We luckily won, but didn't cause any aggravation. Didn't have a thing that you could remember in the rest of your life. So it was everything turned out well. But the only thing what happened after that, though, it was such a great experience and loved every minute of it. And after all of that, we thought, Christ, we're going back again to Wembley for the Charity Shield.
Sure.
So you think, great, this is fantastic, because we'll replay all that again, and the atmosphere, and we went back, and it was against Liverpool, and I can't remember anything about the game really at all. It was just flew by, and I don't know why, there was no memory of it at all. So explain that.
Well, describe the moment when Bobby Stokes scores that goal. Because if I remember rightly, it was about 81, 82 minutes, very late on in the game.
Yeah.
You were very big underdogs against Manchester United, of course. And then Bobby Stokes, little flick on, and then he fires it into the corner of the net. What was the feeling like when that went in?
Yeah, that was so typical of Bobby. I mean, that's type of the goals he scored were always a bit, like that. He's so kind of quick off the mark, and he didn't hit it as well as he could have done, but if you watched it, but he just beat, the keeper in the corner. And I thought we had about, 25 minutes to go. I didn't realise it was such a short time left in the game. So it was, there was no messages really coming across to us, because I was on the other side. I was on the kind of right-hand side. And then when the final whistle went, it was like, oh, right, it's it, we done it, So it was a kind of relief, really. But I did think we were, the game was going to drag on and on, because it was sort of, going kind of be a 0-0. But Bobby was so, he always would come up with a goal like that. He was kind of quite very sharp off the mark, great finisher. But
so the walk up those famous 39 steps, what's that like then?
Yeah, I was just people patting you on the head and touching you, and but I don't know. It was a sort of thing. It's exactly what you would think it would be. It was just elation and being grateful, I suppose, as well. But to be a loser there must have been dreadful. And that's the thing I always think about that. Although Manchester United went back, those players went back and they won it, again. So, but Manchester United were the team I always, when I was 11, 12, 13, that was the team I supported. So to go back there, and I was at Old Trafford. I was at Wembley in 1968 when they beat Benfica, and I was there behind the goal that George Best scored. So I was a real Man United supporter. So and I must admit, I sent off for George Best's autograph, Dennis Law, Pat Crerand. I got all their autographs, and then when I started playing, Manchester United just didn't and wasn't interested at all. One of the teams I couldn't stand, and I got rid of them, threw them all away. So all those are in the bin somewhere. So
goodness me,
big regret. But,
I imagine so. Now let's move on to you. Move off to Portsmouth. Now, if you're a Southampton player. I have to put it to you, Paul Gilchrist, there's one club you wouldn't possibly go to. It wasn't a great experience, was it?
It was out of probably frustration, really, because you've got to think about this. The cup final that season had done. You go into the next season, and Laurie McMenemy at the time, he had an experience, I think, with Sunderland struggled, after their cup win. The following season they struggled, and he called us into the office and said, into the dressing room, and said, look, I've experienced all this before. We're not going to be like that. So, all the players, you forget the cup, it's done. We said, now we've got to get out of the second division into the first division. So, I'm going to give you half a dozen games just to, see how you do. Anyway, we all took that on board, and then the first game, I can't remember, I think it was Carlisle or something like that. We were playing at home, and we lost, I think, due to two defensive mistakes. And then the next game, Bobby Stokes was dropped, I was dropped, Steve Middleton was dropped, and we never really got back in. So we were playing reserves, frustrated really, and nothing really. It went on like that for a while. So I was kind of a bit fed up, and so I got an offer. I got an offer to go to. You got this thing down there. I think I went to Saudi Arabia.
You did, yes.
Yeah. So
now you weren't earning £100 million a game over there.
But it was more out of we were playing up at Birmingham, I think it was, in the reserves, and there was a thing in the paper saying that there was a guy from Prince had sent his scouts over to England to buy players. And we just read it in the back of the Sun, I think it was something like that, and didn't think anything of it. And then we played Birmingham, and I came back in the next, I think it was on the Monday, and Laurie said, there's a guy come to see you, there's a scout come to see you, and he wants to buy you. And I was going, what are you on about? And he said, there's a team in Jeddah. They sent a scout over, and they want to buy, they're interested in taking you out there. So they want you to go up to the Dorchester in London and meet with their agents and their people up there. So I wasn't that keen really, but I thought I may as well. So I ended up going up there, and they persuaded me to go for a year. That's what it was going to be. And they promised all this and promised that. And my wife didn't want to go. So eventually she agreed to do it. So we went there, and it was disastrous basically, because everything they promised you didn't happen. And the first game we played in Jeddah, we kicked off, and hardly anyone spoke English, and I was spat at and punched within 5 minutes, and I thought, this isn't going very good. So and then the following week we played in Riyadh, and we flew to Riyadh, and I can't remember what happened up there, but anyway, we came back, and I was going back to England for Christmas, and the guy, because they take all your passports and everything, and my wife was still at home then, and so I'm get back on the plane, and they said, we have a problem, we can't find your passport, so you can't go back to home, you can't go back to England until we find it. So, and then miraculously it was found. So I think I went back and I don't know, it's just a disaster in the end. So I fell out with the prince out there, and he wasn't very happy. And so I said, well, it's all the promises you made, you haven't kept. So we all agreed to kind of cancel the contract and come back to him. So we got back, and I went back to Southampton, and Laurie said, "Oh, so what happened?" And I told him about that, and he said, "Oh, we're going to sue them for what they did. They promised you this, and they didn't come with it." And then they had a nice little letter from I think one of their agents there, and said, "I don't think suing the royal family in Saudi Arabia would be a good idea." So Laurie said, "Oh, forget about it. Let's we'll move on." So that's how I sort of came back. But all the papers were, I came back because, and I gave all up, I had such a chance of making millions of pounds out there, and I gave up, this, which wasn't, it wasn't really the truth. But everyone seemed to forget it. So then I got this offer to go. Ian St John was the manager of Portsmouth, and I got a phone call at home from Ian, and he said, "I heard all this, what's been happening. Would you like to come down?" And I think it was Chris Lawler. No, Chris Lawler was a friend of his, and he got him down there. And Ian said, "Would you like to come play for?" And that was really more frustrating. But I knew all the players. Again, you get to know all the players that play for Portsmouth, and I knew a lot of them. And the grounds, it was a nice ground, and I just thought, oh, can't do it. It can't be much worse than what I'm having at the moment. So that's what I did when I went down there. But that ended up in a disaster. So.
Yeah, let's move swiftly on then, and let's go to, in case there are any Southampton / Portsmouth fans watching, etc. Yeah. Let's move to get your move to Swindon now. Now, this is an interesting one because Bobby Smith is manager, Danny Williams is general manager. Now, Danny Williams, of course, as you know, the legendary manager of Swindon's League Cup winning team, etc., etc. Bobby Smith has come in. Danny Williams signed you.
Yeah.
Bobby Smith, how was that then?
Well, I'll tell you another thing, which again, no one knows all these things, but Portsmouth agreed the deal was, but Portsmouth would agree to pay, because I'd moved, right? So that was the thing, signed the contract, everything, but they agreed that they would pay for all the fees involved with moving house. So all the estate agents' fees and all this, and then solicitors' fees. So they agreed to do this. Ian said, "Yeah, that's fine, we'll do that, no problem." So when it came to the house was done, the invoice came in for the estate agents' fees, solicitors' fees, all that. So it all went to the accounts department at Portsmouth, and they refused to pay it. So I then getting messages from the thing saying, "Well, you've got to pay it." And I said, "Well, I'm not paying it because it was agreed." So they said, no, we didn't agree to that. So Ian St John had been sacked by then. So we got in touch, or I got in touch with Gordon Taylor at the PFA, and spoke to him, and said, this is what's happening. They're refusing to pay. So he said, "Don't worry about that. We'll be." So he got involved with it. So they were going to, that was all going to court and all this sort of thing going on again, and getting a bit frustrated. And then I phoned Ian up. I told him what had happened, and he said, "No, we agreed that Portsmouth will pay your thing." So it got to a point where the court case wasn't going to happen, and then all of a sudden Swindon came in. No, we'd played. That was it. The Portsmouth had been drawn against Swindon in the League Cup.
Yeah.
And so. Can't remember the manager's name, who had taken, Ian's been sacked, the new guy had taken over, and he came to me and said, "Paul, I know you don't want to play for Portsmouth anymore. I know you've got this issue with the thing, all that, but we've got a few injuries. Would you like to play?" So, and it's not at Fran Park, it's at the county ground. So I went, "Yeah, fine, great." So I played, and I think I scored. I think one of the goals, I can't remember. I think I scored anyway. Next day, Danny Williams contacted Portsmouth and said, "Why is he on the list? Why are you trying to sell him?" And then they told the story of it, and he went, "Oh, well, we'll have it." So they made an offer, and they agreed. I think it was that they wouldn't, that with the court case and all that, and all the money would all forget all about that, and I'd go to Swindon on a free transfer. So that's how it happened.
So what was Bobby's what was Bobby Smith's reaction? Because he's then signed, ironically enough, of course, Andy Rowland, the late Andy Rowland, whose funeral was last Friday, and many people were there, I should say. He then signed Andy Rowland from his former club, Bury, didn't he? So what were your feelings then? Because you were kind of in this tug of war, really, between Danny Williams and Bobby Smith.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I mean, it was great to get away from Portsmouth for a start. And so I was quite happy with that. And it wasn't till after, I didn't really know, because I just thought Danny Williams was the guy that did all the negotiations, and he took me there. And he was still kind of managing the side at the time when I was there. And then Bob Smith took over the kind of running of the club. Danny went upstairs, and I was still, I don't know, he was just building a squad of players up. So that's all I kind of thought was, it's a good squad of players, and you have to fight for your place. And he, I can't really remember how it all went, but I know he played Andy and who was the other? I can't remember. He brought a couple of players and played those, and one of them got injured. I don't know who it was. One of them got injured, and I came on. I was sub. I came on and scored, and then the next game, I think he was still injured, so I played the second game and scored again, and so I kept scoring, and then it was like, and even a lot of the players said, "Well, he can't drop you now. He can't drop you like this," and so it went on like that. So I was doing okay, and then we played at, I think it was Aldershot, something like on a Tuesday night, and I was playing, and I think we were, I don't know, 0-0 or whatever, at half time, 1-0 down, and he came to me, he just said, "Right, Paul, you're off, and Andy, you go on." And Andy went on, and he scored. So the next game, Andy played, and I was sub, and then got pushed back into the reserves. So, and that's the reason in the end. And I was playing reserve football, and again, the same thing. You couldn't get in, and it's all like personal. If a manager likes you, he'll play you, and if someone buys you, then which happened probably at Doncaster. Morris he got me and liked me, and I did okay, so I kept playing. So if you choose someone that you rate, you feel obliged really to play him. If he's scoring, which Andy did, and he's a great goal scorer, you're going to obviously carry on playing him. So I was, and then the little things in the paper started saying that I was bought really as a squad player, to help the youngsters, which at the time really no one told me that. It was just like you were in the you were just being you were playing that was adding to the to the team really. So
because you had a great partnership with Chick Bates, didn't you? I mean, whenever you two played together, you seemed to either Chick scored or you scored.
Yeah. I mean, he was a great goal scorer. It's really funny. He knew where to be at the right place at the right time, and I think. But then going back, you look at the players they had at the time. Yeah. We played Portsmouth, a place winner. So Kenny Strauss, isn't there? They were great players, really. May McHale, and then Chris Kamara, all that, Ian Miller. You could go through them all. They were, a cracking team, really. And to play with them, it was a privilege. But it was a sad thing, really. You just weren't going to get a look in, really, which is then you keep thinking, and I got a point at that time, I think, I was getting really frustrated, and and I think playing reserve football is okay, but it's not that enjoyable, really. And then I got this offer to go to Hereford, and I said to my wife, I said, I don't know, it's a bit of if you play first team football, then it'd be worth a go. But I decided then, I said, right, I'm going to do one more year and that's it. Then I'm going to finish. I'm going to pack in and completely. And so I did sign, and I think I played the last couple of games of the end of that season, had the summer off, and then went back pre-season. So I ended up finishing in the end. Not my choice, really.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a minute, because it's something I wanted to talk to you about, because it's the hidden side of football, etc. But one player that you would have known at Swindon, of course, was one Jimmy Allen. Now, Jimmy Allen was telling me the story the other day. Now, my surname is Morgan. I live in a village that with a garage that sells Morgan cars, right? I don't get any money from them, I have to say. But I understand that one Paul Gilchrist had a Morgan car. Is that right?
I did, yes, I did. A brown 4-seater. It was, that was. I was kind of into cars, really. So it was quite fun. I'm a bit of a. Do you know a Caterham 7? Do you know those? Yeah. Well, it used to be called a Lotus 7, and I owned one of those when I was 19. I think it was 20. No, I was 19, because I was at Charlton. And I took it to Charlton, and the manager came out and he said, "What the hell have you got there like that?" And I said, "Why? What's the problem?" He said, "We can't have one of those. It's a racing car." So I said, "No, it's a road car, but they used to race them." So he went, "Oh, I didn't know that." So I've always been into I ended up, funny enough, after finishing, I ended up working at Caterham for 2 years. So it was one of the Morgan was a have you ever driven one?
Yes.
Yeah, and we kind of, it was a bit, I had one, I always wanted one because they would look great, but it was sort of got it out of my system. So I had it for about a year, and then it rusted.
It's one of those cars where the bonnet arrives.
Anyway, so so I thought I'd better get rid of it before
because the bonnet arrives 10 minutes before you do, don't they?
Yeah.
But apparently you had all the regalia. You had the bomber jacket, you had the scarf.
Oh God, the whole thing, yeah. So it was, but it was good. But you go through periods like that. So,
sure.
So,
right, let's get on to what we should have mentioned, of course. I think your last game for Southampton, ironically, was at Charlton, wasn't it? We didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
We got, was that the one we got hammered? Charlton beat us, or I can't remember. One of them. We got beaten by Charlton by 6, I think it's 6-2, I think. So one of the games. But,
I just wanted to put that in because it's a kind of ironic kind of twisting. But let's get off to the darker side of football, because you're a professional footballer. You want to play football. You're playing in and I hate to use this phrase, but you understand what I mean, not a proper game, pre-season.
Yeah.
And basically your career ends. Tell us that story.
Well, we this is Hereford, and we were going up to Wolverhampton Wanderers. Taking the whole squad went up that day to play them, and it was at their training ground. And Hereford decided to there were going to be 2 games being played, and all the squad, they'd swap them around. So I was chosen to play in the second game, and so we were on the sideline watching the first game happening, and someone got injured and had to be taken off. So our manager then said, "Oh, Paul, you go on and fill it, and play on right side or whatever." And so I did that, got warmed up, got on the pitch, and then within about 10 minutes, I got hit. The ball was passed to me, and I went to pass it off to someone else, and so all my weight was on my left leg. I passed the ball, and it was right back or right half. The Wolves came in, hit me side on my knee, right to my side of my knee, and it just collapsed sideways. And I knew it wasn't good, so I collapsed, and I don't know, I can't remember any pain or anything like that, but I knew there was a problem. So they came, got a stretcher, I got taken off into their dressing room. And not one Wolves player came in and said, you know, okay, no, the guy who hit me knew he hit me, but didn't come up to apologise. And I got taken, when we came up in the big bus, and I got put on the a stretcher, a thing, a plaster thing put on my leg, and we went back down to Hereford that night. And the next morning I went to the hospital, and the doctor saw me, looked at it, and he got he got my bottom of my ankle and my thigh, and he just literally bent it from side to side. And he looked at it and went, "So you were in theatre at 2:00 then?" So I said, right, okay. So he then operated on that day and put it in plaster, and we went back home, and I had to phone my wife up, said, "Better come and pick me up." So she came and collected me, and we were living still in just outside Swindon, in Holborn. And so I got carted back home. So I had about 3 months with a plaster on, and then because I'm still friends with physios and stuff down at Swindon, they allowed me to go down and rehabilitate down there. So I went down and used all their equipment to get back to playing again. And quite ironic, really, because at the time, can't remember who it was, the manager, but they wanted me, Wilf McGuinness, I think, is that? No, I don't know who it was. They said if I could prove that I could play again, they would be quite happy to take me back to Swindon. So there was a game, a friendly was going to be played on Saturday, and I was all ready to go for that. And then on the Friday, playing five-a-side at the ground, and it just went again, and it just got swollen up. And I went back to the doctor the following week, and he said, yeah, I didn't think he'd ever play again, to be honest. So, but he said I couldn't tell you that. So, and that was it. So that was my career finish. So,
how do you deal with that? Because you want to play football. You're a footballer. It's what you've known since the age of 14, 15, and then it's over. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, depressed, I suppose, with that. But I think in your head, I knew that it was gone on for a long time. The recovery was going on. The rehabilitation took quite a long time, and you kind of feel that it's not going to be. You wouldn't be able to go into a tackle 100%. You feel you were trying to protect. What's happened. And we went to a rehabilitation centre, and you get talking to people, and I don't know. I think you program yourself in that this is something it might not happen, or how long can you last, or So it wasn't. It was sort of I came to before I kind of knew it was going to happen, but it was disappointing when they said to you. But it was a bit so But technology now has moved on so much.
Yeah, I was going to say.
People get this injury, and they do whatever they do now, and they're playing again. And
Sure.
I think that's probably half of it. A lot of players. I'm going way back to the Doncaster time. There was a guy there that was when I was playing up front. He came in, and he was a 18-year-old. And this guy called Mick Elvis, and he ended up playing for Preston and Crystal Palace, and a great player. And he had the same thing. He got hit, knee injury, had to retire. But technology then was, of these type of injuries, obviously in their infancy, really. But
same as a cartilage injury, I guess that could have been career ending, couldn't it? In those days.
Yeah. So all those things now, progress has moved on. With what they can do.
Because you did, I think during that time you took up photography, didn't you? Get really interested in photography.
Yeah, I did. I'd always liked that, but it was great because you go into the ground and I like obviously sport, any sport really. I like action stuff, and I got talking to Dave Evans. He was at the paper, and we got chatting to him, and I was saying, I'd love to be doing what you do, and he said, well, come down to the ground, come down, and So I ended up sitting next to him at home games, taking photos of of players that I've been playing with, and it was and then we'd go back to the paper, go back to the advertiser, and then he'd show us how to develop them, and so I got that, and then started doing that at home, and so he sort of got me onto that. But then films, all the digital stuff came in and all that.
Well, I was going to say that's changed as well, hasn't it? I mean, I've known Dave for many years, and I remember sort of when I was a reporter, we'd and games somewhere up north, say Doncaster, for instance, and they'd have to come back, go to the newspaper office, develop everything, and everything.
That's it. Yeah.
And if you're going to learn from somebody, you might as well learn from Dave Evans.
God, yeah. But but I always remember because Chris Kamara was, because I was doing all the photography, and Chris was single at the time, and he was getting married to Anne, and he said to me, Paul, you're into photography, aren't you? And I said, would you take my wedding photos? And I went, you've got to be kidding. I said, no, Charlie, it's not a responsibility like that. And I think Dave took them. I think Dave Evans took them. I'm not sure. I think he did. But I thought that was quite, I said, I like photography, but I'm not, I don't want to risk that. So,
Well, a cracking photographer without question is Dave Evans. And then just one thing before we finish, because we're coming up to the end of it. I know you said an hour. Gosh, it's nearly up. Believe me. Now, many people might remember above Burton's in Swindon, there was a gymnasium. Now, tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, that all happened because I've been told that I was never going to play again, and I mentioned I lived in Oldbourne, which was a lovely village, and we were there, and a friend of mine, we've got a lot of friends there, and we were in the pub, and one evening, and my friend said, so what are you going to do now then? Now you finished playing, and I went, I'm not sure really, I haven't kind of planned anything. So he came out with this. He said, I know what you should do. You should open a gymnasium for these unhealthy, unfit business people in Swindon, because Swindon was a growing town, one of the fastest growing towns at the time. And he said, you should do this. And I went, I don't know anything about teaching people to exercise. And he said, well, come down to our, and it was Burma Royal, I think at the time in Swindon. Come down to where he was, an accountant there. And so I said, okay. So we went down there thinking it's like the old multi-gyms and all that sort of stuff that we used to use. And he opened the doors down in the basement of Burma Royal, and they had this fantastic gymnasium, real chrome stuff. It was like saunas and all this. And he said, this is what we do. And it was a system designed by a guy up in London called Al Murray. Not the comedian Al Murray, but it's a guy called Al Murray. And in fact, he's coming down next week. If you want, come down and meet him. So I did that, and then nice guy, and he had the City Gymnasium in St Paul's in London, and he said that if you're welcome to come up, and I'll teach you everything, and so cut a long story short, I did that. I went up, stayed with my parents, and went to London for quite a few months and did all the teaching side of it, and then we found, and my counter friend, he said, this is a great idea, I'd like to go in with you. And I thought, well, you know the money side of it. So he put in like a quarter share, and I had the 3/4. And we found the place at Burton's. So we opened that up. So, which I quite enjoyed. It was a very enjoyable time, but very time consuming. We ran it for 7, we were the second gymnasium in Swindon, apparently at the time. And then after 7 years, we were, I think there were 12, something like that. And we had 1 week's holiday in 7 years. It was like 1-to-1 people, and but I didn't realise it went so long. But we decided at the end of it, the guy who owned the property was going to put double the lease, and we said, I can't, that's not right. And my son was just getting to the age of we either stay where we are, or we move back. Our family come up from Kent. This is where we come from. So we had a choice of either staying where we were, selling it, or moving back up here. So we decided to sell it and move here. So, and it was bought by one of the members, funny enough. One of the members.
There you go.
So, yeah. So, but it was, yeah. And you meet a lot of nice people there. A lot of
excellent. I've got a comment here. Oh, Steve Ashley says, I joined Paul's gym and loved it.
Great.
Claire says, just like to say massive congratulations on winning the FA Cup. Did you dream of playing in the Cup or replicate scoring famous Cup goals in the street as a child?
No. Well, to be honest, you don't ever think you'd ever be. That's when you were younger. It was always other people would do it. And you'd watch the TV because you've got to remember when the FA Cup came on. It's different now, but when the FA Cup day comes on the TV, you just sit in front of it. And you watch the beginning of the day right to the end, and that's how it was. But you never. It's always other people that were talented would be in it, would be involved in it. So it was no way in a million years that you'd ever think you'd ever do that. But it happened. So sometimes you kind of think, it's all a bit of a dream, really.
You've always got that, haven't you? An FA Cup winner. It's as simple as that. This is from Boo. Leia Road away, Friday night. 2 goals to the good by Paul, if my memory serves me right. At half-time, lost 3-2. Brother's car broke down on way home. The joys and still the joys of supporting our wonderful club today. How about that?
Christ, isn't it?
It's great, isn't it?
One of the things which is quite, when people say, "Well, have you played at so-and-so ground? Have you played at that?" And I said, "Yeah, I played there. And I played there." But it might be for Charlton reserves, or it might be some, it might be, there's most of the clubs in the league. Bar the new ones that have obviously come in, but we've ended up, I've ended up playing quite a few, not Premier League or anything like that, but it might be, for a second division, third division, with Doncaster and fourth division with them. So I've been to quite a few grounds and played at a few grounds, but I was talking to a guy last night. It's quite funny. What I think this has done, I think one of the benefits of having a career like this, although it was cut short, it was still a lot of things happen. You do get to talk to people about things that they like. I'll give an example. We were in the pub last night, funny enough, and we just popped in. And this guy, he's not always there behind the bar, but we got talking to him, and he was, the cricket that's been on today would be great, and he made a comment about football, and I didn't know that, and he knew, obviously someone had told him who I was, and he got talking about it, and he said, "Yeah, I'm a Gunners, I'm an Arsenal supporter," so he got a conversation about Arsenal was the first team I played. My Premier League or First Division debut was at Arsenal, and the first time I played was for Charlton. Charlton was at an FA Youth Cup at Highbury. So he was like, couldn't believe it. He was like, "Oh, fantastic!" And I said, "Have you ever been into the dressing room at Highbury?" And he said, "No, of course not. No, I only going the same." And I said, "Well, we were 15 years old, and we were playing the FA Youth Cup. And you go up, the bus drops you off outside, and you go up into the marble steps up in there, and then into the dressing room. You go in there, and you sit down on the bench to put your kit on, and you didn't realise all the stones where the tiles around where you put your feet, you take your socks off, but they're all warm, they're all heated." And you went, "No, I can't believe that." And you go, "Well, we were 15 and we did the same." It was like a different world. So all and it does open up things to tell people, and they quite, they do get quite, they quite enjoy that basically as well.
Well, we were saying, weren't we? How football is a thing which brings people together, relationships gather. You with former players, of course, mates of yours who you've known throughout the years. You play with Mickey Shannon, for goodness sake, people like that. And you look back on it, And at the end of the day, you have an FA Cup winners' medal, which many people would love to have. So that is something you can be rightly proud of, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I can't. Well, yeah. Sometimes you look at it again. Well, I think as well, it's quite nice. I mean, all the people I've worked, I've worked for BMW for 30 years. So all the people that the staff people, the people that we work with, a lot of them are football supporters. And they get to. So sometimes they go, have you got the medal, have you? And I said, yeah. I said, you'd like to see it? And they go, oh, cool, yeah, So, even like taking it in and showing people who would never have an opportunity ever to touch something like that, you can say, there's, it's in the box, then, and that it makes their day. It's really sort of, and then they perhaps they're not that fussed about, they kind of ask you questions about what it was like, and like this. So it's quite nice to do that. I quite
absolutely, and so it should be. Paul Gilchrist, it's been a joy. Thank you ever so much for joining us tonight. I mean, it's been great, and we're talking about a time which, for Swindon fans, the late 70s was pretty special. Of course, the following year, League Cup semi-final, etc. So it's been really great hearing stories of the differences, Chris, in between the way it is now and the way it was, the matter of a blink of an eye ago. I mean, it's incredible. So there we are. I really thank you, Paul Gilchrist.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Sorry to bore everyone.
Absolutely not. It's absolutely amazing stories, and
my wife has heard them all before.
Well, we haven't, so you're all right.
Watch it again. But no, it's absolutely fantastic, and it always amazes me how you remember such things right back to the start, right through your career. And I think it's absolutely amazing with dates and goals you've scored, and amazing.
But the things that they do, those things, I think they do stand out. There are some things that I can't remember that. But there are things that do, I suppose. Because you enjoy them at the time. So,
exactly.
That's the thing. But,
and I think once you start, it brings all those other memories to you as well. So
I'll just say one quick question. There's a guy we played 50 years ago. We played Norwich City. Goes back the thing. We played Norwich City, and we drew 2-2. And a guy I think worked for the Sun paper or Mirror, somewhere there, wrote back an article about it, and I've got a whole box of old programs and stuff, memorabilia stuff up in the loft, and this guy wrote this thing on it, and we were looking for some things anyway. So I was just looking through this box, and there was a cutting of this game, and it turned out the person that wrote it was a journalist called Nigel Clark, and turns out he lives about a mile up. He lives in the village opposite the pub we go in, and I didn't know that he'd lived there for about 10 years. And I was talking to her, and then someone asked me, said, with your football career, do you ever hear of a journalist called Nigel Clark? And I said, God, yeah, I remember Nigel. I remember him writing lots of stuff. And he pointed out the window. He said he lives in that house there. So he went over the road, got him, brought him back into the pub, and we've been chums ever since. And I got the cutting, and I showed him the cutting. I said, look, Nigel, and it was July 73 that he did it. He wrote it, and it was July 2023 it was then, so 50 years ago. And he got put in the parish magazine. Can you believe that?
I remembered Nigel Clark very well. Yes, a very good journalist indeed. Yeah.
Well, we were up there. We were talking to him the other night. Yeah,
brilliant.
Great.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thanks very much, Paul. That's it's, as I say, it's wonderful hearing the stories. So and we've had the viewers putting likes on and everything, so it's fantastic. So we will let you go in a moment, but don't go just yet. Okay. Thank you everybody for watching. Vic and I will be back next Monday. We will be we're trying to get somebody rather special that we're trying to get, so we'll keep you up to date with that. And we will see you next week. Well, we'll see everybody that's going to Eastleigh on Sunday. Sunday, not Saturday. So we'll see you there if you're going to Eastleigh. If not, we will be back next Monday. Okay, have a good week. See you later.